after the service ran like 25 minutes over the hour. That's okay, though. I'm sure I've shared this before, but every so often there's conversations among UU ministers about like how long is a service supposed to be and how long is too long and all of that. And people have very definite opinions about exactly what the right way to do it is. And I always feel like I've been to 90-minute services just like that one that went by almost instantly. And I've been to 10-minute chapel services that lasted so long. That's relativity, right? I'm pretty sure. We have relatively, yeah. I feel like I'm just sort of holding the room for a minute as people come in. More jokes. A guy standing on one side of a wide, swift-flowing river, and he sees another person on the far shore, and he says, "Hey, how do I get to the far side?" And the guy on that shore says, "You're on the far side." Relativity. What else? The Holy Roman Empire was neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Yeah. Yeah, Heidi, get up here. Someone told me, I think Miles told me a joke last week. He came up to me after the 9 a.m. service. He's whatever grade this is. And he says, "What has 5 eyes and can't see?" And then he says, "The sentence, 'I love Mississippi.'" All right. There. I don't know if there is anything to get. There's have you told knock-knock jokes to like a very small child? Or have you had a small child tell you knock-knock jokes, right? Right? Like knock-knock, who's there? Grape. Banana. Yeah, good. All right, we're going to start this meeting. Our words for a chalice lighting are from Kenneth Patton. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature, a house of friendship, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle. This is a house of freedom, guarding the inherent dignity and worth of every person. It's a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, and mystics abide in a community of searchers. It's a house of art and a house of prophecy. It is a cradle for our dreams and the workshop of our common endeavor. This annual State of the Congregation meeting that we hold just about this Sunday each year isn't a business meeting or a formal meeting. Really, it's an opportunity to hear from your board and your staff team about what's going on in the church. There are enough things going on, there are enough of us, there are enough communities within our big community that no one person, myself included, can really understand absolutely everything that's going on. So we will hear today first from Steve, from our congregation president, then from Sam, our office administrator, Scott, our community and connection manager, from Dr. Emily and Rachel and me, and delighted to have you here and anyone who's joining online also. I'll turn it over to Steve.
I'm Steve Todd, president of your board of trustees, and my perspective on the state of the congregation, the state of the congregation at UUCB in 500 words or less is great, but we'll get better. Yeah. I have some more words. I thought we were going to be writing a book there for a while. Comments I hear around our community about us include words like dynamic, vibrant, inclusive, welcoming, loving, a place of justice, values, vision, and belonging, and growing. We are growing in human connection and in the number of humans participating. All indicators that what goes on here is addressing a need in our Boulder community and in our world. Just last Sunday, as the seats were filling, I sat over there noticing the people in the room, many friends, old and new, and also many folks I didn't know at all, future friends. I estimated about a third of those present that day seemed to me newish, which is remarkable but not surprising, since I know, what did we agree on here, David? 25. Since I know that our attendance grew by about 25% in 2024 and had grown 25% in the year prior to that as well. And a second observation as the service began, our choir, in the year that our music director, Dr. Emily Koryath, has been here, had grown from about 8 members to 24 plus. So if you need another number, that's a 300% increase. And our family ministry under RE Director Rachel Alba's dynamic leadership has been growing by leaps and bounds as well. I hear so many comments of gratitude for our multi-talented and caring staff, and I hope they are hearing from you as well. That Sunday, last week, as well as this Sunday, as David was focusing us on possible futures in these trying times, I thought back on just the last 6 weeks of services, moving, thoughtful, calming, challenging. Possible futures last week was bookended on the front end by unwinding the old year. And between those, we experienced out of the in-between, plus a deep dive into the oldest story in the world. Unique kinds of messages, both mind-opening and heart-opening, and a reminder that if you missed, and a reminder from me to you, that if you missed any or want a refresher, all these services are available on our YouTube channel, which now has 550 subscribers and is averaging 130 views per week over the last 15 weeks. And so in the pattern of a state of the whatever address, I want to thank our beautiful staff, and especially Reverend David. I counted up, and I've been a member or a staff person or the pastor of 14 churches, I think, and have then interacted with at least 2 or 3 times that number of ministers. And I have never been in a congregation that consistently got to hear such wonderful, inspiring messages week after week. And I hear that from you as well. Okay, now on to the work of our dedicated board and the many other leaders in our congregation.
What about Scott? We got 3 new members today and 1 last week.
Yeah, I said our multi-talented staff, and of course that includes Sam and Scott as well, right? I guess my focus here was on Sunday mornings and our gathering in this space, which Sam has also helped to lead, and Scott will probably lead next week. And now, on to the work of our board. As we continue to mature and evolve, new opportunities arise that call for planning and prioritizing. So in addition to the board's monthly business meeting, and this year, the addition of a second monthly meeting in support of our building expansion project, we spend a full 2 days, a full day, 2 times a year, developing a list of strategic initiatives and the many board goals and ministry team goals that grow out of that. I'm not going to go deeply into this, just get a feel for the areas in which we are planning ahead and focusing our energies. One is fostering inclusivity and belonging and promoting a culture of welcoming and engagement. And as we look forward to next year, we're going to add building a community of joyful relationships, resilience, and resistance. The second area is the leadership of our church, building infrastructure to take us to the next level of church development, which basically means going beyond assuming that the minister will do it all, because we're getting too big for that to work. And the third, in these last couple of years, obviously, has been establishing a plan and path for building expansion and continuing now to support the building expansion project. So I could talk about all those more, but I'm guessing you want to hear more about that third one. We are on the cusp of several important milestones. Here are 10 data points. I didn't make slides, Kathy. 10 important data points on the timeline. 15 months ago, at a special congregation meeting, we decided to explore an expansion and upgrade of our facilities here at 5001 Pennsylvania Avenue. 13 months ago, we began the work of organizing a team structure to guide the process, and we established 2 teams, and we have, at that point, had 12, and now it's growing to close to 20 volunteers to help do this work. 11 months ago, those 2 teams, a building design team and a capital campaign team, formed and began their work. And now the pace accelerates. So 3 months ago, by 3 months ago, we had a capital campaign consultant and an architectural firm, Rodwin Architects, lined up and working with us. 1 month ago, we submitted a 67-page application for annexation to the city of Boulder. Which is, I don't know if everybody knew this, but that's a necessary step to be able to improve and expand our building. Three weeks ago, Scott Rodwin and 3 of his team were here on Sunday to introduce themselves and meet and greet the congregation. This week, as you know, Rodwin and our visioning team will lead a visioning party here next Saturday. 9 to 9. Can I call it that, Kathy? Yeah. Visioning party? You are obviously all invited. And just in case, what comes up for you Saturday is, maybe I'll clean the garage and go to the other one, you'll miss out a lot, because this one is where the seeds are planted. 2 weeks from now, we expect to get the city's response to our preliminary plans, and we're standing by with fingers crossed. 5 weeks from now, you will be invited back to review and explore the first stage drawings and engage in that second visioning session on March 8th. We live in interesting, often exciting times. What a joy it is and a gift to have this beloved community to share our joys and sorrows, our hopes and fears, to unite in doing good work, to support one another in staying centered, in going deeper, in slowing down as needed to experience our rich, full lives together. Thank you for your partnership. I'm grateful for your support of this community and for the opportunity we have together to support one another in this wondrous journey.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. And before I start, I also just wanted to give a quick shout out to Dr. Emily, Francisco, Austin, and everybody who helped put on music for the services today, including all of you. Yeah, that was, what a treat, like, seriously. In my soon-to-be third full year with the UU Church of Boulder, I've seen a staggering amount of work done within and beyond this congregation. Even as we prepare for further expansion, we've rebuilt so much from the pandemic era and truly expanded all of our efforts, allowing space for so many new faces to join us in this work. It is very exciting to have now seen us reap what we have sown. Parroting what you said, which was not planned because this was, written beforehand. It's how new systems implemented by our staff team have allowed us to navigate multiple facets of church life with renewed efficiency, and how justice teams and committees and social groups are making such a profound spiritual impact on our community. It's this work that has personally brought me out of my darkest moments and kept me going. Something particularly pertinent to today, as this marks 1 year since my medical leave that prevented me from giving this speech in 2024. Here are the seeds that I've sown this year as office administrator. I have continued to refine our communications infrastructure, implementing aesthetic and functional changes to our website, weekly email blasts, and calendars. As our building continues to show signs of aging, I've played a much more significant role than in recent years of monitoring our building's many utilities and fixtures and coordinating maintenance services as needed. And sometimes also being a plumber. Thank you, Dr. Emily. With the help of our financial team, we have implemented new and much easier systems for handling invoices, receipts, reimbursements, and budgeting. In light of recent matters affecting our security and financial peace of mind, I've revamped our security systems, reprogramming our front door and office locks, and revising office protocols to help prevent future incidents. A primary project for the rest of the year will be reorganizing the office space to make use of the lockable dividing doors, which many of you probably didn't even know about, that split the space into two sections. The idea being stationary supplies, lost and found items, etc., can be made more widely available to congregants in one space, while items that require more secure storage, keys, paperwork with sensitive information, will be locked in the other space with access given to a very limited number of church personnel. Yes. Lastly, this is exciting. Our rental income this year has surpassed even our wildest expectations. Based on trends since 2022, our 2024 to 2025 budget projected an ambitious increase in rental income from $8,500 to $13,000. With the year just over halfway through, we have exceeded this already high watermark with a record-shattering $15,785. Recently, my role at UUCB has evolved in unexpected but crucial ways. Some of you may have noticed at the beginning of this year that I have not been present at all on Sundays. Some of you out here may not have even seen my face yet. Starting next week, my role at the church officially shifts away from Sundays, and I will be only attending services at most once every few months. This allows for extra time week to week to tackle longer-term projects and bring necessary attention to urgent church matters outside of services, of which there have been plenty this year. I will absolutely miss seeing you all on Sundays. But no, if you ever want to say hello, you can stop by the office during our new office hours, effective starting in March, Mondays through Thursdays from 10:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Nonetheless, my position has also taken massive steps toward embracing the power of community, receiving invaluable assistance from members like Liz Cleveland, Barb Richards, and Fred Cole, who have lent their time to take care of bank deposits on a weekly basis, as well as teams like the Building Expansion Team and the Fraud Resolution Committee, who have taken on projects and responsibilities that would otherwise have greatly overfilled my plate. With the support of a settled core staff team and a passionate, expanding community, even as my role transitions to more behind-the-scenes work, I have never felt more interconnected within the vast web of activity that this church engages in and day out. I'm very grateful to contribute my time and my passions to a community so unapologetically and authentically spirited in the pursuit of care and love for everyone. I see that care and love every moment I work this job, and it has changed my life. I work every day with the goal of doing the same. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a tough one to follow. It's hard to believe I'm going into my 8th month as the Community and Connection Manager here at UUCB. I was so lucky to step into a wonderful membership and connection team and to join an already vibrant community of co-creators engaged in radical welcome and inclusion. Community and Connection supports visitors, longtime members, and everyone in between on their journey to belonging at UUCB. We have an average of 40 first-time visitors come through our doors each month, and we hope that after their first warm reception at the welcome table, many will go on to join us at newcomer programs, exploring UUCB and finding yourself at UUCB. It's worth noting that since July, 25 of those newcomers have signed the book and become members. We also support the 35-plus dynamic groups and teams, which act as our smaller communities within the larger UUCB community, and where newcomers and longtime members alike can connect more deeply. Our spring and fall justice fairs and opportunities fairs showcase these groups and provided an easy way to sign up and meet other participants. It was a marvel to see all of that dedication, activism, and energy packed into the Sky Room during coffee hour. In March, we'll hold our first ever Church Works Fair to highlight those groups like Leadership and Development and Pledge Drive that work behind the scenes to ensure everything at UUCB runs smoothly. To empower more members as co-creators, we held 2 fall trainings, an usher and greeter training, which had 36 attendees, and an expanded connector training, where we shared best practices and resources for 14 of our current and future group leaders. Don't worry if you miss these in the fall. We'll have them both again in the spring, so watch your calendar. We've developed several new resources, including a building and facilities manual, a guide to communication at UUCB, a one-page checklist for events at UUCB, a printed monthly events calendar, which you can find on our counter, and a monthly connectors email with helpful information for group and team leaders. If you lead a group and aren't receiving that, please find me and let me know. There are some easy, low-commitment ways to dip your toe into participation at UUCB through the Membership and Connection team. Bring a snack to coffee hour, or better yet, help clean up after coffee hour. No advanced sign-up required. Simply pitch in when you can. It's a great way to bond with someone overloading the dishwasher. And if you would like to volunteer to help flip pancakes next Sunday for the pancake breakfast, please send me an email. Sign up to usher or volunteer at the welcome table. I'll be passing a sign-up around momentarily. And lastly, we are actively seeking new members for the Membership and Connection team, so please contact me if you have ideas about improving the newcomer and membership experience, or if you have a flair for radical welcoming. Thank you.
One year ago today, I stood at this podium and said, "It's my first day." And David, being the great and funny boss that he is, he was like, "You should just go to the meeting anyway and just like say hi so people can see you." So I was like, "It's my first day," and everyone went, "Yay!" And I said, "I can't wait to see what I'll say to you a year from now." And everyone went, "Yay!" So when I arrived, we were barely 2 years out of the pandemic. Our music program was in transition, adjusting to our new reality and all the changes that go along with it. So this year, David and I sat down and developed 3 major strategic priorities for the program: creating new forms of participation and music making, strengthening the work of those already part of the program, and strengthening the underlying planning and logistics that guide all of the things that happen in the world of music. So let me dig into each one of these. Under creating new forms of participation and music making, we are expanding the ways that people make music in the congregation and are making music a more deeply embedded element in congregational life. Since I started, we've hosted 3 instrumental jam sessions, one in March, one in July, and one at Community Night in November. We also did a Christmas carol sing at Community Night in December. And this weekend, we had an incredibly successful workshop with our guest artist, Francisco Ruiz. Yay! We have a talent show coming up in May. And all of this speaks to our goals of widening the on-ramps for people who want to participate in music in our congregation. There are now lots of ways to do that without necessarily needing to commit to an ensemble if that doesn't fit in your life right now. With the choir and band contributing music once a month each, we're able to include other musicians from the congregation, especially our instrumentalists. In the fall, we had music from Becky Root on the harp, Connie Epic and friends, Connie playing her fiddle, Amy Self playing winds, and Kathleen Newton on the flute. So we'll keep on including even more folks coming up this spring, more instruments, more people, more genres. The second goal was strengthening the work of those already part of the program. As Steve already mentioned, the choir is growing as our congregation is growing. We welcomed Dan Lamprey, Declan O'Brien, Bonnie, Connie, and Elizabeth into choir this year. We also make it safe for people to drop into rehearsal and then consider if they're interested in sticking around. It's no pressure, no shame if you give it a try and feel like, oh gosh, Thursday is a really full day and I just can't handle that right now. We also have organized the schedule so people can see, the choir is going to sing on the third Sunday of March, and so I could do that date and just the rehearsals that lead up to that date. So there's a sense of welcome, and however you're willing to participate, we would love to have you participate. Making music together is a great way to find your small community within the big community. We created a choir covenant together on my very first weekend here, and we read an element of it at the beginning of rehearsal each week to remind ourselves of our shared values. We light the chalice when we start rehearsal and include opening and closing words to frame our rehearsal time as a covenantal space where we care for one another and we challenge ourselves and grow. For the second time in as many years, we're preparing a shared music Sunday with our friends and neighbors at the Boulder Valley Fellowship. This is actually a huge undertaking, including months of worship planning, repertoire selection, special rehearsal scheduling, and request for increased flexibility among our choir members who show up for lots of extra rehearsals outside of our regular choir nights. It's a lot of extra work, but it's fun, and we really like it. And hopefully, if you were here at Music Sunday last year, you will agree that what we end up creating is something pretty cool. Under planning and logistics, I'm lucky enough to have weekly worship planning meetings with Rachel and David to make sure that musical choices align with the day's goals and themes. I also work with our guest preachers, worship leaders, and the teams that create our lay-led services each quarter. Last summer, I worked with a fantastic volunteer hiring team to hire our collaborative pianist, Austin Skeffington. Yay! Austin has been a tremendous addition to our program. He is a skilled collaborator and has a gift for sensing into how music can support worship. And he also brings a wealth of experience in leading ensembles. This is not always visible, but Austin has taken on a huge amount of administrative work in support of our fantastic Chancel Cats, including creating new charts and arrangements every single month. So every song that the Chancel Cats play, we sort of look at what resources are available, what are the skills that folks have in terms of their comfort level of reading music, and Austin then kind of filters all of that information and creates something that everybody can read and play from and feel successful, and then we work on it together in the rehearsal process, which he also leads. This year, we launched a music team that is discerning how it can best support the goals of the music ministry. The music team has helped me to process the feedback that we get after each of our instrumental gatherings in order to keep improving that experience for the people who participate. And we're also trying to work on, there's a lot of passion and enthusiasm for infrastructure, which is great because that is not my particular skill set. And so there are people on that team who are very excited about helping me to file our music and be a good steward of the things that we have already purchased. And where are we going to put these instruments so that they are, not subjected to the elements? And how do we take good care of the piano? And how frequently should we be having tunings and all that good stuff? So like external brains that help me keep eyes on all of the things that are happening. Lest you think that all of our work is done, there has never been a better time to jump into music making at UUCB. We will continue growing and evolving together and would love to have you as part of our community. I'll also just note, I have been so moved and touched by your enthusiastic welcome of Francisco this weekend. We mentioned that he needed a guitar to play. He didn't want to travel with one on the plane because if you've ever seen any of that in the news, it can be really treacherous to take an instrument on an airplane. So we had immediately not one but two offers of beautiful guitars, and Francisco was couldn't pick because they were both really lovely, and both Matt and Steve were incredibly generous and let him take both to the fellowship last night for the concert. And so it's just a tiny example of the huge heart of this group and how people are so willing to step in, to make something beautiful happen, and to create space for new things to appear, to move us, and to support all of the big work that we're doing within ourselves and within the world. So I didn't write down any of this personal stuff because I thought I was trying to be very businessy. But After this first year, it's incredibly moving to me to be part of this community, to get to share joyful moments and difficult moments with you. I don't really know where I would be personally if I had to navigate this most recent political season without the anchor of working alongside you in this community. So I'm super grateful to be part of such a dedicated and passionate team of people. And you are part of our team too. We're here as the staff. We work together, but we also work with you to continue bringing your ideals and your visions to life. So here's to us. Thank you for a beautiful first year, and here's to many more to come. Yeah.
My inner Catholic wanted to bow before walking up to the exactly, yeah. Oh man, old habits die hard. So when I got here a little under 2 years ago, I was given the task of crafting a religious education and family ministry program that would meet the needs of families, children, and youth in the, I say post-pandemic, but we all massage those words. Post-pandemic world. Pandemic informed. Exactly. Back then, if you can think back 2 years ago, on our very best week, we would see 5 kids at our services. And our nursery was staffed mostly by parent volunteers who would coordinate amongst themselves who got to be in the service that week and who got to be with the kids that week. Our middle school religious education program took place at the 11 a.m. service, and there was one kid that would come some of the time, but with no other youth around, he would feel pretty left out and alone and kind of awkward about it. Yeah. This year, we averaged 13 children and nursery-age kids at the 9 a.m. service every week. This week, we actually had 14 kids in religious education class, and then we had another 5 in the nursery. Yeah, totally. We have a middle and high school youth group that usually has about 6 people at it. That meets on Sunday evenings twice a month from 6 to 8 p.m., which is why you all don't see them here. Working around when do middle school and high school kids actually have time, which is not Sunday mornings. We had 35 people at our Halloween party this year, and almost the same number of people camped in overnight here in the church just a few weeks ago. When we offered 5th and 6th grade Our Whole Lives this fall, that's the comprehensive sex education programming that's done by the UUC Church and the UCC Church and the UU Church. We had 9 kids in that program, about half of whom were not coming to UCB before, and a couple of whom we now see regularly either at religious education or at the youth group. Yeah, it's awesome. Similarly, we offered an Our Whole Lives inspired summer camp for rising 8th and 9th graders this summer. I turned it into a summer camp because it's 26 sessions. No one wants to do 26 sessions, so we did it in a week. And we had 8 youth attend. 4 of them are children of members. The other 4 were people that just came because their parents wanted them to be getting that opportunity. Of that group of 4 that were coming here without having members, without having their parents be members, they still come to youth group, which is really cool. All 4 of them. In part because they enjoyed their experience, but they also found friends over that week of talking about really kind of sometimes awkward topics together. We've also piloted having childcare at the millennial-ish group's potluck dinners. This is super important. So having paid childcare does something really amazing for our parents. It gives them an opportunity to not be attending to children while also trying to attend to adult conversation. And this is especially important because the Surgeon General's, one of his last things that he did before the transition was to put out a warning about parents' mental health. And so one of the ways that we can support parents is by giving them opportunities to connect to other parents while their kids are being taken care of safely. What all of that means, put together, is that we have a thriving family ministry program. And if it feels like we've recovered from the post-pandemic slump in attendance, it's because we have. We have 65 children and youth registered for religious education this year. When we look back at the registrations for the past 20 years, they average around 48 children and youth, which means we are well above our 20-year average. And in that interval of 20 years, there were only 2 years that surpassed the number we currently have, which is awesome. I'm like so excited about that. Yeah, so our work now is not to rebuild, but rather to sustain and deepen this thriving and growing religious education and family ministry program. But thriving doesn't just look like numbers, though I mentioned a ton. Thriving looks like Forrest, who is in 4th grade, giving a brilliant explanation of the difference between equity and justice when we were talking about our UU values. Like, I wish I knew it still in my head because it was so perfect. It looks like Tegan, who's barely 2 years old, walking confidently up to the altar at the 9 a.m. service to put a stone in during joys and sorrows. It looks like Brynja and Emily calling each other besties at OWL and then still hanging out now. It looks like Miles, who's a 5th grader, bonding with Ginny over their mutual love of puzzles during coffee hour. And it looks like parents telling their friends and then their friends telling their friends about our program. And that's how it grows. It looks like belonging and community and spiritual growth and play. Now, this is where you fully come in. This congregation supports this thriving in so many ways. Many of you volunteer to co-teach religious education, to facilitate our whole lives, to offer your passions and gifts to our Families Nights Out, which is an event that's catered. So parents have dinner in the Sky Room. We take the kids down the RE wing, do fun activities with them that have been a variety of things. But we have volunteers come. Oftentimes, Climate Action Ministry has come and helped out. We're going to have Racial Justice come and help out in April. And it's an amazing opportunity for those intergenerational connections and relationships to get built without having to commit to coming to religious education class every week. So I offer all of you in this room the invitation to come hang out with us in religious education for a Sunday or 2, or if you have a passion you want to share with us, or the kids, whether it's kids or youth or the nursery people, like, we will find a time for you to do that. I've had a lot of people come up to me, and I haven't said no to anyone's ideas yet. So I trust that you will come to me with a brilliant idea that I will want to implement immediately. This congregation also helps family ministry thrive by maintaining a budget for family ministry that makes robust programming possible. And I mention this because many of my colleagues don't have that. They look at their budgets and they say, do we buy new crayons or do we get, some other big necessity done? Do I need a new table? Do I get a table or do I get crayons? I'm in the position where I look at my budget and I say, I can get the crayons and I can get the new table and it's not a big deal. And that does so much. Like, energetically in the system, it allows everything to we've got enough, we have abundance. And that is so, so, so important. Like, when we had a chair break at some event because a kid jumped on it not realizing it was not a stable chair, it was okay. It wasn't a big deal. The kid was also okay. I was like, how did that happen? Anyway, this congregation supports family ministry and thriving by building cross-generational relationships at our Wheel of the Year services, our community nights, and during coffee hour. Family ministry is thriving because all of us in this community believe that having a community that includes all of us is important. And for that, I have to say thank you to each of you on behalf of myself and our children and youth and our little infants that are so cute, and our parents. Because the parents in this community are really grateful to be in a place where they get to give their kids this kind of experience. So thank you all.
Thank you, Rachel.
one of the central questions that we've been asking ourselves as a staff team from election season through today is this: what is the unique role that this community can serve which is not met anywhere else in public life? What can we do as UUCB that no other institution can do? We answer that in a lot of different ways. In a world that's working to separate us from each other, we're a community of interconnected relationships who knows that that's the substance and the fabric of the place. In a world working to separate you from yourself, a world that burns you out and numbs you out and freaks you out, we're a community that remembers celebration and joy and delight are the things that we're working towards even in difficult times. That remembers that remaining human in an inhumane world is an act of resistance. In a world which overwhelms you with the scale of the problem and the vastness of need, we're a community that pragmatically gets to work with partners who know the work. We're going to keep on partnering with advocacy organizations to help them do what they do best. TP Raisers, NAACP, Surge, Citizens Climate Lobby. We are and we will be a community of joyful, rooted relationships and resilience and resistance. And our simple and expansive mission has been and continues to be an act of resistance, to connect bravely, to deepen spiritually, to embody justice and always love. That is a mission that fills a fundamental and unmet need that no other institutions fulfill. So we're going to expand the building to make room for it, to make space for everyone who wants to join this strange and beautiful and rooted and transforming community that we all make together. This building expansion project will be beautiful and functional and sustainable, and our commitment to it is an expression of our hope and our trust in the future, that there will be a future, that the kind of life and community we invite each other into, this isn't some passing phase, but an enduring need, and the city and county and country will need what we do here in the years ahead. It sounds grandiose to say that out loud, but I think it's true also, right? We're expanding our building not as an act of vanity, not even just as an act of optimism, but we're collectively putting our money into action to make a space for a community that will endure decades beyond any of us. And this is the right time for it. This is the moment in our country to invest ourselves in community, to dream and plan and work for the future. The substance, though, the substance of the congregation isn't the building. It's this ecosystem of relationships. We're a community of communities. We're one church, but we're also lots of little churches inside of it. We're one mission, but that takes different forms. We have one set of shared values, and we have lots of different kinds of theologies behind those values. We're growing. You know this, you've heard some of the numbers. Our in-person fall attendance was up 25% over last year, which was up 25% over the year before. Our membership is 281 people because I didn't meet up with Declan before this meeting started to make it 282. 281 or 2 is more members than we've ever had in our history as a congregation. Our RE enrollment is the third largest it's been since we started track. Last fall, we put chairs back on this east side here where the choir used to sit, and the choir never sat there because the choir was already too big to fit there anymore. Luckily, they didn't go unused. The numbers aren't the point, though. The numbers are not the point. The point is that every week, people walk through our doors hoping to find a community where they can be who they actually are, be all of that person. Hoping to find a community where they can grow into their sense of who they're called to be. On any given Sunday, 10 first-time visitors walk through the door hoping for a renewal of courage, hoping for an invitation into a way of life that equips them to live in the actual real world. And they find it with you. This is a way of being in the world people are hungry for. Last week, I got an email from a newcomer visiting for the first time who said, "I found my church." And people come to church for lots of different reasons, for a great religious education program, for ridiculous, unbelievable music like today, good preaching, a community who shares their values or comfort, hope, and solidarity in a difficult time. People come to church for different reasons, but I think that they tend to stay for the same reason, which is relationship. Deep-rooted in our shared sense of who we are as a community is that we're a community who welcomes the newcomer into actual relationship. We always have enough room to pull up one more chair, even if it's got a wobbly leg. We always have enough food to put out another plate, even if it's the container of Chewy Chips Ahoy that's been in the cabinet for a while. I mean, no. To be clear, they were manufactured as Chewy Chips Ahoy. People will forget the chair and they will forget the cookies and they will remember that they were welcome and that they belonged. Because you have known what it is to be a stranger, you don't want people to be strangers. Because you know what it is to belong, you want people to belong. And that does not, in fact, mean that you have to like and be dear friends with everybody. You won't. That's okay. That's okay. So we're growing, and that growth makes new things possible. The Single Women Aging Gracefully group, the Soul Art Gallery. If you haven't poked your head down the hall, there is incredible art made by members of this congregation. The Millennialish group, which is new this year, and the youth group. Parents of teens have started gathering as the youth group gathers. Midlife Oasis rather than midlife crisis, midlife oasis. There's a virtuous cycle here. There's more ways to find your small community within the larger community by interest or life stage or focus of justice work. It's easier, every month it's easier for someone walking through the door wanting to be part of the community to say, oh, I can see myself here. And that growth is a hard thing too, because it involves real change. And for those of you who have been here for years or decades, it can be a jarring, a dislocating thing to look around the room on a Sunday morning and say, who are these people? What are they doing here? Right at the same time as you say, oh, this is delightful and wonderful. Also, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Where are my relationships? What is this? The newcomer walking through the door knows that they're joining a community of communities. And you who have been here for years and decades have real change that goes with it. And it's hard, and I think the benefits outweigh the cost. I think there's not a way to live out our mission without actually welcoming and being in relationship. And change is just hard sometimes. You know what you've left behind, and you don't yet know what exactly is ahead. Every time we welcome new members, we'll do this next Sunday in the service, we tell them that the church will change them and that they will change the church also. And sometimes it's going to feel uncomfortable to be in meetings or spaces where you don't know most of the people, even though you're the one who's been here all this time. But I want to suggest a reframe of that feeling of discomfort, that when you feel that way, it's an invitation. It's an invitation into relationship. Those folks who you don't know want to be in relationship with you. And if you feel awkward in that moment, I assure you they feel more awkward. We're an ecosystem church, which means we're not all doing all of this exactly the same way. Means that the community is always changing, even when there's this consistency, both at the same time. But the thing is that work of relationship isn't drudgery and toil. The work of relationship is delight and delightful. This congregation is full of wonderful, ordinary, remarkable, complex, interesting people. We get to meet them and chat with them, newcomers often, in the Exploring UCB sessions, Rachel and Scott and I. And every single person who shows up to those, like, oh, you're such an interesting person. I can't wait for you to get to know everybody else. Not everybody, but to get connected. I think about it sometimes like the newcomer walking through the door isn't a stranger. Like the way to think about that relationship isn't, who are you? What's your, I'm looking at Emma, what's your problem, buddy, right? It's not that. It's much more like, man, I remember as a little kid going to a family reunion with more family than I've ever seen in my life before or since then. And the feeling is everyone around me are relatives that I don't know yet. I don't know them, or maybe I haven't seen them in a long time. What would the conversation feel like if instead of a stranger who you've never met before, you're actually having a conversation with someone you just haven't seen for a long stretch? Someone maybe you knew as a kid before you grew up, and now you're discovering the relationship that you're in. When that's the frame, like long-lost relatives getting back together again, the questions that you ask in those moments aren't to classify them, right? You know all these like classifying questions. Where do you live? What do you do? Where do you go to school? Are your kids in school? Like all of this, right? The questions you ask are trying to understand and connect with them. How are you? What's new? What's going on in your life? How's this week been? A congregation becomes a club when it forgets that the people who arrived here after you are the people, are just as important, rather, as the people who arrived before you. And we're not a club. This is not what this congregation feels like. And we're not going to be. And that's true on Sunday mornings, and that's true in all the committees and groups. A few weeks ago, someone told me 8 new people showed up to the Climate Action Ministry Team meeting for the very first time. And Cam did what any group would do, which is welcome them warmly and pull up some more chairs and take some extra time for introductions. I say that and I dwell on this because I am so proud of the work that our staff team is doing. But the congregation is flourishing not just because of us, but because of you. This congregation is flourishing because it matters to you that the next person walking through the door finds the same kind of experience that you found weeks or years or decades ago. This congregation is flourishing because you understand that the work is co-creation, that this is a shared ministry, that our staff team can help to enable, but real belonging only comes from each person to each other. That's what you're doing. Church is an ecosystem, not a monoculture, and we're thriving because there are so many different people here, passionate about different things in different ways, engaged in different ways. To each person who comes on a Sunday morning or gathers during the week, needing relief from the whirlwind of life and shelter from the blizzard, this is your church. And I'm so proud to be your minister. And I'm ready for the journey ahead of us. Amen. Thank you. Friends, I appreciate you hanging in for a long day of church. That's it. That's the whole run of show. It's been good to be together. It's 2:00 in the afternoon. You are probably ready for lunch. I am ready for lunch. But I do want to encourage, if you have any questions, we'll be around for a few minutes, but also don't hesitate to reach out, email. We're always happy to chat. Thanks, everyone.